folks. Welcome to another edition of the Ominous Hour. Let me shade off the music a little bit. Be just enough for a bit of a mood. Okay, well, it's time for another Ramadan update. Been about 2 weeks since the last one, and it's been a very eventful and meaningful 2 weeks for me. Hope it has for you too. Um, I think I'm going to start with the most painful part of what I need to share with you. Painful and probably wonderful at the same time, like most things spiritual can be. Um, Last time I left you with a sense of where this experiment that I started with the Ramadan prayer was going, what kind of revelations it was bringing to me, and a taste of some of the pieces that I'd started putting together um, in that, I would call it a frenzy of inspiration that I had uh, leading into this Ramadan that kind of put one piece together with another and turned into something that was kind of like a snowball, I guess you might describe it as. So after the day I described as uh, the very tough but productive day of dealing with my wife's personal demons. I'm pretty sure I described that in the last one. I didn't go back and listen, but somebody holler if you don't remember that from the previous Ramadan update. Um, I thought we were heading into Ramadan with, okay, Rob's going to sit back and just watch this one unfold. Turned out that that wasn't what was destined to happen. What in fact happened was my visions started becoming a little bit dark and creepy, but good still in a way. I began to feel I was being thrust into a kind of safety valve role in a series of legal proceedings, basically taking various souls who had been active in recent events and putting them on the stand and cross-examining them with other souls that they transgressed against. And through this process, really interesting process, because it was as it was unfolding, the same soul might be the defendant for a while, and then take the role as the judge or the prosecuting attorney or the defending attorney, or even jump back to the jury and judge some of the folks that also were involved in some pretty major crimes against karma, I guess you'd call it. Anyway, it led to a pretty strange set of frame of mind for me, and that got my wife worried and acting on what I suspect are demons that still lurk in her subconscious. She decided to take me to Jakarta and put me back in a mental hospital. Um, Second time I've been to this place. And I was kind of thinking at the time, this is really weird, deja vu experience. I went along with it because I've learned from past experiences of a similar type that it's best to just go along for the ride when these weird episodes happen in your life and try to make some sense of it, try to integrate it later. I'm not going to say I've fully integrated this one yet. I think I've got a good several months of integration to work this one out to all of its conclusions. But I'm going to share with you some of the interesting things I discovered during the 2 weeks, and this will maybe give you a taste of what might be coming down the pike. Um, so let's see. I guess the other thing I want to say about that is that it's a good example of the strange karmic effects that uh, can result from the power of prayer. In a universe of karma, if you pray for something and you get it something big as a result of it. It could well be that you shouldered yourself with a fair amount of karma. And when you're trying to exorcise demons, ghosts, spirits, any manner of possessors of other souls, you can take on some very heavy karma. And I think that's in essence what was demonstrated in the movie The Exorcist. And I think I've had now my best taste ever of risks of trying to push solutions on a plan that's in the middle of unfolding. Doesn't need too much mucking around by those it involves. At any rate, there were some interesting things about this second experience in the same place. All the doctors and nurses were the same. There were some changes in the cleaning staff, I think, and a changeover of patients that shared this ward with me for 14 days. One lady that had been there, presumably, since the last time I visited, which was last November, and she had her routine down pat. I was very happy living there. I think, one of those people that just actually does just fine in a mental institution with a very limited range of choices and a very consistent routine. And there was another guy, older guy. This was an older lady. It was an older guy that may have been the same boat. I don't remember for sure if he was there before. Anyway, of the patients, probably the most interesting and synchronicitous one that I met was the only guy that was there during my stay that spoke very much English when his drugs were letting him be coherent enough. And this fella was an Arab, Saudi Arabian American, who had happened to have come from the state I most recently come from, Colorado, and had been a pretty serious drug dealer there. And he was on the lam from the law. His family had arranged for him to get to Indonesia and kind of lay low here. And he thought everything was going fine until the police here picked him up for some reason. He had no idea why he was there, when he would ever get out. It was really like a modern day taste of the Count of Monte Cristo kind of thing. This guy was obviously very well connected in the Middle East. He had relatives who were pretty well off in the Emirates. Anyway, it was an interesting experience to listen to his story, and I hope he does eventually find a way out of there and maybe find a way to a better use of his talents than he's put them to before. Anyway, the other thing that was most significant was there was a calendar there. And this being Ramadan, I thought, well, that's great. I can do a little bit of study through this calendar because I don't have any books or any internet access, any device to check anything on, but I can look at this calendar and study it. And this was the most interesting calendar I've ever come across because it combined the Muslim tradition, the Javanese tradition, and the modern Western tradition of the Gregorian calendar. And it was very interesting. Like some of the things that I never knew before was that the Javanese, Sundanese people who were indigenous to this area and still maintain quite a bit of their culture, used a 5-day calendar, not 7. And that struck me as kind of interesting that they would base a calendar rather than something related in uh, the religions that had been prevalent around the world. They would base it on a 5 scale, basically days of the hand. And it made me wonder if there's were some civilization somewhere that used base 6, because base 6, we know, was how we got some of our early numbering. It still remains a dozen, the 12 months of the year, the 12 signs of the zodiac, et cetera, et cetera. The 6-12 connection, as I've told you in other presentations, is an indication that at one time the dominant species here, the alpha species, probably had 6 fingers on each hand. Now we only have 5. You'll see the significance coming up. So the other things that were interesting about this is, well, as I told you, Ramadan shifts every year based on the Muslim way of calculating the cycles of the moon and numbering their months, which are more lunar than solar. The 15th of this month is one holiday that's marked in the middle of Ramadan this year. Not always, I don't believe. It's this year, which actually turns out to be the midpoint of the Ramadan celebration. That calendar marks the date of Jesus' crucifixion, Jesus' crucifixion. Interestingly enough, it also marks in this year, not every year, the beginning of Passover, a feast that lasts, I think, 8 days, and is very sacred to the Jewish people. So there is interesting conjunction about this month that I think gives it some special spiritual significance. It seems to be a pretty rare occurrence of a conjunction between the holy spring days of all 3 faiths. And perhaps that is related to the spiritual energies that have been running wildfire in myself and probably many people around the world. So I think we're in the middle of something pretty special. The other interesting thing about this is it's all, Christians are celebrated Easter on Sunday. They adjust the date so it falls on a Sunday so you can have an Easter Sunday. But in fact, that's not the 3rd day after the crucifixion, which should be the day when Jesus rose. The 3rd day, by this calendar's reckoning, was actually Monday. And I found that very interesting because that coincides with what I'm certain is going to be the new Sabbath in a religion that is going to be a composite of old religions, taking the truth, taking what's good, what's consistent with natural law, God's laws, karma's laws, and making it into a better thing. I'm not sure if I've talked about it yet on my podcast, but I wrote a poem called Sabbath. It's in my Kindle Vella collection. And in that poem, said there will be a new Sabbath, another Sabbath day, in addition to the Saturday Sabbath, Sunday Sabbath, and now a Monday Sabbath. Saturday is a time for getting caught up with all the things you needed to do during the week but you weren't able to do because you were working for the man. Shopping for groceries, visiting friends, taking the kids to a park, something like that. Sunday is a time for family and families to be close to God. The Christian Sabbath. Saturday Sabbath is the Jewish Sabbath. The new Sabbath, Monday, is for the new idea of God, not as an almighty, micromanaging master of the universe, but as another creator, a much more experienced, much more influential creator who got this whole system of karma and reincarnation going and has been perfecting it, along with his senior children who want to play that game. They don't have to play that game. They're welcome to go find their own creative universe and set it up along whatever lines they happen to want to. They can join the crowd of the age of attraction and imagine any flipping thing they want, and that will draw them away from the universe of God, and that's just fine. They want to go homesteading in another part of the multiverse, welcome to it. Anyway, this Monday Sabbath is both in spiritual and physical terms what's needed right now by our species, because there isn't really enough productive work to do for everyone to have a 40-hour-a-week job. And when there isn't enough productive work for everyone to do, you don't make work just to keep people busy. You don't have people unemployed that aren't doing anything, just living off the government's tit. The solution is having another day of off from work, but a day maybe that has a meaning, a purpose. Now, it's not to say everybody will pursue it doing anything worthwhile, and some people will still have to work on that day to keep basic services running. But just like the weekend, it can form a nucleus of a new way of conducting life. I think it would be well worth trying if we get through this interesting Great Reset in one piece, or at least several pieces that might fit together again. Let's see. Other things I wanted to share with you, and this is like a big piece of a whole bunch of stuff which is starting to gel in my mind. I want to tell you something about the original Jesus Christ, which is going to shock you, but I want you to bear with me and see if I haven't stumbled upon something interesting that you've not heard before. Now, first off, let me pull up the whiteboard. Oh, my eyes are going. Desktop. Okay, there's your whiteboard. And I think I need to do something else to get it on there. I don't think that's doing what I wanted. Bear with me, folks. I'm sorry. I should have tried this earlier. This doesn't seem to be working. Try something else. Sorry. Please be patient with me. Let's try. Add a new layer. Oh, there we go. Now we put in their source. Okay, there we go. Well, so any of you who have much background in the history of Christianity should be aware that Christianity was kind of oops, let's undo some of those. Try to move this thing over here. Oops. Okay, maybe we need to stop it first. Ooh, I've got a rhyme through my head. Ow, ow, that hurts. Okay. Those of you who know much about Christian history know that it was not a big thing, not a really highly organized thing, or approved of thing until the Emperor Constantine I. Story goes he had a vision before this major battle, the Battle of the Milvian Bridge against Magnentius. Was it Magnentius or Maxentius? Maxentius, yeah. That if he took this standard with the symbol that was given to him, in that he would conquer in that sign. And so he rejigged all the signals. They held flags and used them for signaling other troops for certain actions or stuff like that. So carrying a standard into battle was kind of an emblem, and also served as a signaling tool. The sign that was given to him was what is known as a Cairo. What does a Cairo look like? Well, it's it's Greek letters, I and Rho. And if you look at the coins that were minted after this point in his reign, a very common type of coin is one that has a background, a back face that says Gloria Exercitus, glory to the army, and it has two soldiers, or sometimes three, carrying a standard, and that standard has this symbol on it. The other symbol of interest is, and this symbol was used all the way back. They've traced it back to the reign of one of the Ptolemies, about 200 BC. So it far predates any Christianity, at least according to the Christianity story that Jesus was born around the year 0 or 30 something, any of the commonly accepted stories. There's a related symbol that I would like to talk to you about too, that I want to draw here. It is a Tau roll. And you'll see why in a little bit. And it's similar, but looks like this. It's a combination of the letter Tau and the letter Rho, which looks surprisingly like a man with 2 hands. This looks more like one with 4 feet, or 2 arms, 2 legs, and, well, we can only guess what this middle one is. At any rate, one of the interesting things about this is that neither of these bears any resemblance to what was known to be the symbol that Christians identified themselves and communicated with each other to see if they were of the same faith, if they could talk freely, which was the fish symbol. And you've probably seen this in movies and stuff like that. If you like movies about ancient times, the symbol of a fish is traditionally thought to be more closely related to the idea of Jesus. Now let's clear this all out, and then look at, okay, well, also the symbol of Christians now is just a cross. The Orthodox Church has a weird cross with 2 things, and there are various other versions of the cross that are used. Sometimes the cross is presented with a center thingy-bob like this, make it into more of a bullseye. Anyway, the symbology of Christianity has changed from what it was at the time of Constantine. And why has that been? Think about it. If this sign that he was given before the battle to win it was so powerful, why wouldn't the Catholic Church profit from that by using the same sign? Well, here is my hypothesis, and I dare you to find any counter to it, and any rational debate that says it's not possible. But I think that what's really happened there is a bit of cultural Marxism. I talk a lot about that, how we change the truth, the historical truth, the symbology of things to mean something different. And this is, anybody who knows that the cross used by a certain group of not very pleasant folks in Germany actually had its roots in a good luck symbol, spiritual symbol of many different cultures before, especially cultures that were offshoots of the Aryan people. I would hesitate to call them a race. I think it was more of a cultural distinction and an economic, technological distinction than a race. I think this idea of race that we have is kind of a new invention, uh, relatively new invention that allows the powerful to manipulate people through othering of other people just based upon skin color or certain common features like, the size and length of a nose, the closeness of the eyes, and the shape of the mouth, etc., etc. This is another kind of a cross. Well, so we have what I think actually happened is that there was part of the old god pantheon that was, spread around the Mediterranean by the Greek people that remembered a story of a personage that was much like Christ and informed both Christian and Buddhist traditions, and resulted in, basically two more forgiving, maybe more loving religions than had persisted before. And I am going to propose to you that this personage was actually not a human. This personage was a centaur. And let's go back to justify that. Get that out. Now, you remember I told you there were two symbols that were originally used. One was the Christogram, which is the one that ended up getting drawn on the coins of that era. The other one, an earlier one, was this is known as a starogram. Tarogram. Tarogram. Now they added an S to that. This is how cultural Marxism works. Make it, to hide the meaning, you make it less noticeable. Why should this be called a starogram instead of a tarogram? It makes much more sense as a tarogram and ties it more closely to the idea of tar, which means bull-like, the minotaur. Now, there was a very famous centaur named Chiron, the most famous of all the centaurs, who in Greek mythology was known for being the mentor of many heroes. Theseus, Achilles, etc., etc. Many of the great heroes of Greek myth were said to have been taught the healing arts, the art of getting along, I guess, human relations, if you will, by this centaur, which is odd because in most of the rest of the Greek mythology, centaurs are kind of known as wild and uncouth and always warring people. In fact, they eventually got themselves wiped out through warring with their neighbors. The War of the Centaurs and the Lapiths is a very well-known theme in Greek art. And eventually there was a group of heroes that, led by Hercules, that wiped out the last of the centaurs and accidentally killed the few good ones that were having good relations with humanity. Okay, so here we again. Cairo. It makes more sense to say it's something about Chiron than about Christos, which is the full Greek version of the name Christ, or the moniker Christ. It's not really a name, it's like a title, kind of like Messiah. Anyway, so this ties in with a lot of other things that I've been discovering about our interesting history with contact with extraterrestrial species and the march of spiritual power and spiritual attainment, changing from an old world where gods were gods and had all these powers, and new souls were new souls and had almost no power, and lived pretty much at the whim and the beck and call of the old gods. We know the world doesn't work like that anymore. There still are people on this earth that try to make it work like that. They're still hungry after power, but they have power through their manipulation of money and media, not through any particular, paranormal spiritual abilities. At least, I don't think so. And that's been a transition that has been, as I've told you, the main focus of the development of humanity. Humanity would not exist as a unique species were it not for its role in testing a better version of karma. Anyway, I think that's that. Those are the subjects I wanted to share this time. There's going to be a whole bunch more to go that I'll either be podcasting about or writing about. And I'm going to be working on a new edition of my long book and more stories for the Kindle Vella one. I have to kind of look at what I've got to present and decide which way it goes. So I guess this may be the last update for the Ramadan special, but I don't know. There may be interesting things that come up. There's a lot of flack going around the internet about something interesting and very, very monumental happening today on the 18th. And there's another date that some people believe is going to be very special in May. And I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder by talking about that, but I have seen a fair number of people gravitating towards some very imminent changes in the human situation. We'll see how that plays out. At any rate, this is Rob Trump with the Omnist Hour. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you will come back, like, share, subscribe, and do interact in any way you want. I love to have fruitful discussion with other souls. So, till next time, thank you.